Hamilton really hasn't hit yet. Hamilton is kind of interesting. You know, the last I checked his stats, his on-base percentage was pretty good, but he wasn't hitting.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, maybe he's at least a patient hitter.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting on base, or at least he was until last night when I think he took an over. And that brought his on-base percentage down pretty quickly with a small sample size. But, you know, he's got to get on base, and then the rest of the guys have to continue to hit. My hope is, I mean, in general, batting average with runners in scoring position tends to be a stat that evens itself out. And so they're not hitting now. Hopefully that will even itself out. But, I mean, you saw last year's team, they never really did hit with runners in scoring.
Has he ever shown discipline at the plate?
The disembodied voice belonging to Matt Lukin, who continues to work the controls back there with his cast of characters.
Mike and Brian.
Hola.
But yeah, does Hamilton, have we ever seen Hamilton have discipline at the plate? I mean, he's excitable, and you like, if he gets on, everybody's just waiting for that to happen. But he hasn't hit, you know, 250 for, you know, 2 weeks in a row yet, has he?
No, and he had the problem he had the end of last season too, where he couldn't hit.
If you put him at the 7th or 8th hole, people would go bonkers at that. I mean, I don't know. That word excitement, I mean, I think that's why you keep him up there. You know, he's patient. At some point, you got to hope.
You can't hit him that way.
Yeah,
Right,
he's of no
exactly.
use unless you lead him off.
I mean, the answer to your question is no. He hasn't shown patience and discipline very successfully at the major league level. But if you look at his minor league stats, I mean, he's getting on base at a 340 clip, 413 in 2012 at single A before they bumped him up. I mean, he's got on base a lot at the lower levels, and it just hasn't translated yet into the big leagues. It takes time to, I mean, he's still, what, 23 years old? It takes time to learn at the big league level. He's still a young guy.
Did you see that 2-strike bunt that he put in the dugout last night?
I have no idea what he was doing.
It was at the beginning of the game. He was up. There were 2 strikes. He tried to push one to second base and almost hit the dugout.
We can't
You know,
go at
I'll
all.
take what we're getting from Hamilton.
You will?
Right now, yeah.
At
this point in his career.
Well, I don't
He's
know.
on base once a game, basically. What's his on base now?
His on base right now is around 300.
300. So
Yeah.
you're getting on base once a game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can afford a leadoff hitter getting on base once a game. I know they can't get on. I know you can't get on base 2 and 3 times consistently. But if the stats say you're getting on base once a game, to me that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think he's got to get on base more for them to really be successful. You also have to look at the defense he brings to the table. I mean, he's got the best range of any center fielder you're going to find anywhere. I mean, he is outstanding. If he's not a Gold Glover, it's just because that one Lagares guy for the Mets is just like unbelievable.
Zack Cozart, what about that guy? He's 7th, 8th guy. I would have never thought he would hit the ball as well as he's doing right now. He's out of this world right now.
Well, his misses are better than his hits last season. Well, they really are.
Right.
I mean, he's not popping up as much. He's grounding out. When he grounds out, he's hitting the ball pretty well.
Do you move him up? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you could if there was a spot in the 2-hole, which is what Dusty did a few years ago. But not moving Votto out, and I don't think, even though Cozart did lead off when he was in the minors, when he played with the bats, I don't think you can move him. I think they got to leave Billy Hamilton there and hope. But
Yeah.
I think so too.
you know, and you know the next guy is going to get on base too. But I think if you look, it's Frazier and Votto the first week, and then it's Frazier. Less of Frazier, about the same of Votto and Phillips in the second week.
Yeah.
But it's basically been 2 to 3 guys so far this minute, and that's it. And that's again, that's another problem.
Yeah. Well, and you haven't had Mesoraco because he's hurt,
Right.
and then you've got the fact that Bruce really he's got a little bit of power, but he hasn't hit the ball the way he needs to.
Yeah, that winning streak last week was fool's gold, it seems like.
Who was that catcher they brought up? What was his name? Shipwreck? What's his name?
Skipworth.
From G.I. Joe,
Kyle Skipworth.
Skipworth. That's it. Yeah. But I mean, so they bring him up. They don't bring Tucker Barnhart up.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that was like because Barnhart spent some time here, unless his major league clock is close to, ending its tick. But my point is again, it points to the lack of depth in this organization. There's just nothing. There's nowhere to go unless the guys you have here can get it done.
Well, they were crippled by a weird kind of like little nuance with the rule that like when you send someone down, when you option someone, you can't call them back up for 10 days unless there's an injury. So because they didn't put Mesoraco on the disabled list, anyone that they optioned at the end of spring training they couldn't recall. So that's why they had to pull in some guy who wasn't even on the 40-man roster.
That's why Barnhart's not here.
That's why Barnhart's
but
not here.
isn't that what you pay the front office to do, to know those rules? I mean, that's a situation you put yourself into.
Yeah, but you
that's not
can't-
something that just happens to you.
Yeah, but you can't anticipate that Mesoraco in the first week of the season is going to have something wrong with his hip, and you're going to need another catcher on the team.
I knew that.
See?
No, I
Ken,
dreamed about
well,
that.
Walt
Why are
needs an
you with the
assistant.
front
Walt,
office, Ken?
Walt
Yeah.
needs an
About that.
assistant, and Ken's the man.
I
Well, we
dreamed
know
about that.
we know that the Cardinals are always going to be a tough team to beat.